I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Congressman Jamie Raskin led a House Oversight Committee hearing on free speech and classroom censorship Thursday. Raskin denounced the Autocrats and Authoritarians for attacking LGBTQ communities across the world. Witnesses spoke about the importance of children having safe spaces to come out or feel supported at school. Listen in to the full questioning here.
Okay, but I think we're going to give the other members a few more minutes just to get back. I think there's a press conference going on about Buffalo. In the meantime, I'm going to take another round of questions and invite Ms. Mace if she wants to take another round. But I'm also struck by the way in which the autocrats and authoritarians feel it necessary to attack the LGBTQ community all over the world now. We see that with Orban in Hungary. We see it with Putin in Russia. We see it with Duterte in the Philippines. Of course, the homicidal crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and on and on. And I wonder why that has become such a hallmark of the authoritarian regimes around the world. And you know, I thought I'd get thoughts from anybody who wanted to, but perhaps, Professor Snyder, we could start with you. You need to unmute, if you would.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So number one, just to make a very simple observation, there's a lot of copying going on right now. So it's not a coincidence when different right-wing regimes around the world use these tools. There's a great deal of copying, and in particular, there's also a fair amount of contact as between the American far right and the Russian regime on the issue of gays. Number two, far right-wing regimes tend to identify children as an anxious place, and so they use the rhetoric of the exploitation of children as a way to seem to be on the right side of families. This is a way of destabilizing other conversations and of polarizing society and of preventing actual democratic conversations of what policy should be like.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Carver, I'll come to you, and then Ms. Gentles, I'll come to you.
I think it also plays on absolute primal fears. I'm a teacher. I worry about my students. I worry about their safety. When kids are trying to commit suicide, we are the ones calling the police. We are the ones literally showing up at their houses to prevent them. We are the ones making sure that they get access to counseling. We're the ones fighting for it. I'm very proud of the unions in Kentucky for fighting very hard when our students were threatened with the loss of mental health access in schools. I can understand and even sympathize with parents who, if they're told by extreme right-wing advocates, your students are in danger, that they might feel worried. And we're in a time period in which lots of people feel stress. So I think advancing that narrative that their kids are in danger is an easy way to win people over at a most primal level that doesn't require them really to ask more questions other than how can I help my kid or protect my child.
I appreciate that. Ms. Gentles.
Yeah, so it was just mentioned that there's a lot of copying going on. And so I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of copying going on among middle school girls in particular right now. There's a bit of social contagion happening where girls who feel like they don't fit in, girls who might have lagging social skills, girls with underlying issues, anxiety, depression, ADHD, often autism spectrum, they find relief in an identity, like a transgender identity, non-binary, gender fluid. This is something that's happening very much in my community. I know of many girls who have embraced this identity when they hit puberty, when they hit middle school age. And so parents are seeing that happening. They're seeing the social contagion. They're seeing it spread among middle school girls. And they're wondering what's happening, and they're asking questions. So I would say we just need to be mindful of the fact that I spoke with a child psychiatrist recently who said in the first 15 years of his practice he had never seen a trans-identified child. But now many of his clients, the kids he works with are embracing this identity. So I think it's appropriate for parents and for caring community leaders to probe, question, look at what's going on, and then ask why schools are creating these gender support plans where these middle school girls come to the teachers, to the schools, say they want a new name, a new identity, and new pronouns, and then the school develops a plan to then hide it from parents. Why are they doing that? Particularly when these are kids who have underlying issues. They have anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism spectrum, and as we've been hearing repeatedly, they might be more inclined to consider suicide, particularly when it's told to them over and over and over, you are more likely to commit suicide. Those gender support plans are dangerous, they're cutting parents out of a really important conversation.
Thank you for that. Ms. Cousins, did you want to opine either on my original question or on that point that Ms. Gentles just made?
So my child knew that it was completely safe to come out to me first. So we never had an issue in school with having to create specific plans for them. And my wish is that every child came from a safe family like my own, where they are free to be themselves, they won't be judged, and they can live their authentic lives. And, if a child doesn't feel safe to come out at home, but they do feel safe with a particular teacher or guidance counselor in their school, then absolutely it's important for the child to be able to confide in that safe adult, because there are far too many trans and non-binary children lately who their families are not supportive, and they will go home, they will be beaten, they will be bullied, they will not be accepted. And that is what is leading to the higher rates of depression, in my opinion.
So, Mr. Carver, it seems like it's a complicated time to be a teacher these days. With the rise in mental and emotional health problems, the Surgeon General has declared it a nationwide emergency. COVID-19 has been a nightmare for young people. It's been profoundly isolating and demoralizing. As Ms. May said, it's meant a setback in terms of kids learning, almost across the board. What is the best spirit within which a school can try to address all of these different problems in a meaningful and supportive way without ever imposing some kind of bar of political and ideological correctness of any perspective on families and on kids?
For me, inclusion is the one word that matters. I know that students, for example, who come from families that try to change their gender identity, who disagree with them, are 300% more likely to attempt suicide. If a student, for example, comes into my classroom and says, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm trans, whatever, it's not my job to say, well, here's what you should be, or let's put you on a path to be something else. My job is to say, great, you're welcome here. You're always welcome here. And I think if we politicize inclusion and say welcoming a student, making sure that this student feels safe, making sure that this student feels heard, if we somehow suggest that this in itself is a political act, then it becomes impossible to make every single child feel safe.
Okay, I'm going to turn to Ms. Mason now. Thank you